Okay, so as always, starting off very gently, and we'll start with our usual self-massage exercise. So just standing comfortably, or even sitting, if that suits you better. Rubbing your hands together, getting your palms of your hands, your fingers a little bit warm, and then tapping over your face. Nice and light, quite rapid. Work up over your head and neck. Come down to one shoulder. I'm using the palm of my hand now, and just feeling how the muscles vibrate as you do this. Going down the inside of your arm, the outside, and then across to the other shoulder. Feel the weight of your arm hanging, the shoulder, and then down the inside of your arm and up. Coming around very light on the lower part of your back with one hand or with both hands. And working around your hips. And then down the outside of your legs and up the inside. Just as far down as you can get comfortably. Nothing should be forced. Coming back up, look nice and light on your belly. And then the upper part of your chest. Excuse me. Good. Okay. So, standing comfortably, and we're going to look a bit more detail at posture later, but just very briefly you want to try and have your feet directly below your hips. Try not to stiffen up in your hips and your knees, and turning in this center part of your body. So hips to waist. Just try and have a sense for how far you can move without straining. As always, these exercises are as much meditation as they are physical practice. And this isn't meant to suggest that the physical practice is somehow less important. It isn't. But this brings what we think of as mind, what we think of as body together. So just try and notice how this movement feels. Where do you feel the movement working? Where's there perhaps the areas of tightness, stiffness in your body? You might find that some of those, as you start to move, just naturally sort of dissolve away. Try to let your body settle into a nice, easy, steady rhythm. And that rhythm can start to resonate through the whole of your body. And just noticing how when we do turn our attention inwards, or two things really. One is we very easily get distracted. We start thinking about what's going to happen during the day, or what happened yesterday, or whatever else distracts us. And when that happens, it's very normal for that to happen, very natural for that to happen. Just return your attention to your posture and your movements. And hopefully the second thing you'll notice is that this has a quietening, calming effect on our minds. And as that begins to take effect, we can become a little bit more aware of what's happening in our body. So you could say that our bodies offer to our minds a sort of quiet place to rest. And that rested mind is more aware of what's happening in our bodies, and we can begin to bring a sense of deliberate intention to what we're doing. So as you do this, try and have your weight a little bit forwards in your feet. Let your hips drop back a little. Try and get a feeling of your weight dropping down, the centre of your body dropping down through your legs, as it were. This helps to release some of the tightness and stiffness in our hips and our shoulders, giving us this looser quality of movement. Then turning your hands, palm out, raise them up a little bit. Just no higher than your shoulders, and notice that my elbows are somewhat lower than my shoulders here. Spread your fingers out a little bit. So remember that this is the beginning of the session. We're moving towards what we want from our posture. We're moving towards a sense of the movements and the principles behind the movements. There should be no expectation that we just suddenly start a Tai Chi practice session and we're 100% there. We ease into this. This is important. Let your hands drop down. Now, put one foot forwards, the back foot turned out, and very gently pushing yourself forwards and backwards, being careful of your knees, don't overdo this movement. And just feeling that your body begins to move from the ground. So that quieter mind and the awareness that goes with it really starts to sort of work from the soles of your feet in that point of contact with the ground, right up into your upper body, your head, your arms and hands. Beginning this feeling of moving as one unit, rather than what can often happen, this slightly sort of fragmented quality that we can sometimes feel as though we've got an arm over here and a leg down there, and somehow they're not connected. I think this is as a feeling really does offer a way into a kind of sense of well-being, shall we say. It's perhaps one of the first things that we notice beginning to develop in these arts. And then your other foot forwards, same thing. So as well as being good physical warm-ups, which is important, these exercises also start to sort of gently guide us in to the sort of space, if you like to think of it like that, we like to cultivate in these arts. Good, and then just shake out. I'm going to go through some details of posture with you. Don't expect to understand all of this straight away, and certainly don't force your body into a particular posture. I do my best to explain why we're doing something, so you can sort of map out a route, as it were, from where you are to where you want to be. We want to have our feet directly below our hips. That could be measured from the inside of the foot or the outside of the foot, so there's some variation there. Everybody's slightly different in their body structure. But hip width to support your hips, so your hips can support your shoulders. Toes pointing forwards. If they're turned out a little bit, that's fine, but try and avoid them being too splayed out. And if you find it, some people will naturally stand like this. That is true for me. Over the years, what I've done is I've gradually learned to turn them in. But it's again, you don't want to hurry that process. You don't want to start twisting your knees or your hips up. And standing a little bit closer, just let your weight roll forwards and backwards in your feet, and your body just sway a little bit, pivoting from your ankles. If I take this pole, if you can imagine this being in the middle of my body, then this is what's going on. And that will happen quite easily if you go too far. So moderate the movement until it's actually quite a small movement. You feel the pressure of the weight in your feet really moving from the ball of your foot to front part of your heel. And then what we're looking to find is some kind of midpoint, some kind of point of equilibrium, where rather than pulling us forwards or backwards a little, gravity starts to pull us down in to our feet. So in theory, I could take this pole and set it up and then just walk away, and that wouldn't happen. In practice, of course, that's quite difficult. But if I could get, say, some guy ropes from a tent and pin them to the floor, that would also help to stabilize it. So we can think of our skeleton and the associated tissue in that way, if it helps. But just gradually coming to rest as much as possible. Now, along with that, another little exercise to think about, and just push your shoulders up towards your ears and then slowly let them drop down. And pushing up and down. Easy and gently. Notice the sensation in the muscles of your chest and back and shoulders as they drop down. That sort of unclenching feeling. This is what we refer to in Tai Chi as releasing, letting go, softening. They're all derived from a Chinese term called Song, which is also translated as calming and relaxing. And just notice that at a certain point, your shoulders stop dropping. So we actually don't need to hold our shoulders tight. The arms aren't going to fall off at all. So having done that, and I want you to do the same thing in this center part of your body. Gently pull your belly in, tighten across your hips, and then releasing. And again, notice what happens, first of all, in that area of the center of your body, but then through the rest of your body. So, for instance, I find that when I release in the center, actually, I release everywhere. And also, if you watch my knees, when I pull my belly in, they get pulled back, but then they just begin to curve slightly as I release. And I get a very strong sense, once again, of dropping. So that dropping feeling we describe as rooting in Tai Chi. This is our center of gravity, dropping down towards the ground. And it's probably the first key principle in Tai Chi, physical principle of the lower our center of gravity, the more stable we are, the less weight we're having to carry, particularly in the upper part of the body. And it's important to note that there is a slight curve in the knees here, but it's not actually about how much you bend your knees. We will be bending the knees a bit more in a few moments, but I try and take the emphasis away from that a little bit, especially to begin with. So the knees soften, the knees release, and they curve a little bit. And it's only after that that we begin to go down a little bit more deeply. So this time, as you feel that sense of release, and just see if you can let your hips drop back a little bit more. And at a certain point, you'll find that your legs then just expand and push you back up, and then gravity takes over and pulls your hips down. So in general, when I do these movements, I try and do them quite big so that you can see the mechanics of the movement. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do them as big movements. Listen to your body. You shouldn't be getting, for instance, sharp, regular pain in your knees. You might get the odd twinge, and they might start to ache a little bit. The legs might start to ache a little bit, but that's different. You shouldn't. So you know, if you are getting that sharp, regular pain, just ease off on the movement a little. Nice and gently. And again, just see if you can let this movement settle into a nice steady rhythm. Feeling that expansion in your legs pushing down into the ground, and a sort of rising movement, a flow and energy expanding up through your upper body, with the shoulders being pushed up. And again, your body beginning to resonate to this rhythm. You may find that your breathing, for instance, naturally begins to harmonize with the movement, but don't force that. Just let your body breathe however it's comfortable breathing. Now bring your hands around in front of you as though you're cradling the ball. Push up and let the expansion, push your elbows out. Turn your hands over, let your hips sink, and as though you're pushing a ball down into water. Pushing up, expanding, and contracting. So, one of the characteristics of Tai Chi is that we use imagery as one of the ways of making a link between mind and body. It can be a very powerful tool if it's a good image for you. One of the most common images that we use is that when moving through water. And this is a consistent image all the way through. There's a slight sense of resistance, but not one that will require us to stiffen and to strain. And it can be interesting to note how our bodies respond to imagery. So it's one of the ways that we bring a quality of intention to the movement. So this is the exercise rooting down, named after the concept, if you like, of rooting down. Notice whether you're inclined to speed up, and make sure that you're setting a comfortable pace for yourself, not too slow. But even so, you might speed up, and one of the ways to counter that is to refocus your attention on details of movement. What do you notice happening within your body as you do this? Now from here, from the bottom of the movement, here, rotate your arms out, and as you push up, your arms are pushed away from your body, and they swing up. This is the exercise, the wild goose. So you may find that the image of the bird in flight offers some kind of quality to you. Try not to stiffen in your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, fingers. Maybe sort of recalling that earlier feeling of releasing. And if there are areas in your body that feel a bit tight or stiff, imagine how it would feel if you could release in those areas. Good, and then letting your hands drop, cross in front of your belly, push up, and this is the exercise part in the clouds. I always have this image of a grey, cloudy day where suddenly the sun comes out. Notice that at the end, the top of the movement, my elbows are still a little bit bent. This isn't meant to be a stretch. One of the characteristics of the postures for me is that there's a sense of space within the body for movement. And so we try and just retain and cultivate that space as we move. You do one more of these. And then go back to the first one, letting your hands curl under, pushing up, and building these 3 exercises into a little sequence. Don't rush to change, turning your fingers out, and then into the wild goose. Don't panic about which one comes next, because if you forget, it's not the end of the world. And then parting the clouds. And just beginning to notice what's happening again within your body. Each movement has a great deal in common with all of the others, but they also have their own sort of almost signature. Different parts of the body expanding and contracting, different pathways of movement, of the flow of energy. So, for instance, when we do the first of these, we could let it draw our attention to the center, the belly and lower back, focusing on the expansion and then the contraction. There. Do the same thing at the start of the wild goose, but feel how the movement builds up into the solar plexus. And then parting the clouds, belly, solar plexus, and up into your chest. We feel the movement building from the ground in that way. And one of the things that we're learning to do is just to become a little bit more aware of these internal changes within our bodies. As I noted before, that really does help us to maintain a quieter, calmer quality. We also learn that these are the building blocks of the bigger movements that we do, and that we can bring a sense of intentionality to these small changes. And so this is one of the ways in which we begin to influence the bigger movements. Now, letting your hands drop down, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders. Push up on one side to feel the expansion, pushing your arm up, wind around as though you're plucking something from a tree, and pull down. Take a moment to feel the weight of your arm hanging from your shoulder, your hips dropping back, and then pushing up again, feeling the expansion and contraction on the opposite side. This is dragon plucks the stars from the sky. This moment of settling and then expanding on the other side, taking your time. Again, try and retain a sense of your overall posture, recalling that feeling of space, noting how your body supports itself, with your legs supporting you. your back supporting the front of your body, so try not to pull your belly in tight or tighten across your chest. And more subtly, but hopefully increasingly, a greater sense of how you're supported from within. This, I mentioned the idea of the skeleton and surrounding tissue earlier. These are all ways that we can encourage ourselves to lose a bit of the tightness and lose a bit of the stiffness that is very habitual to most of us. So dragon plucks the stars from the sky, sinking down, but then come back up a little bit. Try and maintain this higher position with just that slight sense of a curve in your knees. But remember, this is very strong on the legs. You may need to just sort of shake your legs out. Bringing your hands so that the inside of your arm just touches the outside of your hips. And from there, lengthening through your back and spine, pushing your arms up as though you're pressing your hands against a low ceiling. Coming back, taking a moment to return your hands and arms to that central position. Push out through your arms to the side and just turn a little bit. And then coming back and again lightly touching the side of your hips. Turn in the other direction and back, and then facing forwards and pushing out. So it's simply called pushing in 4 directions. As you bring your attention back to the center, remember that feeling of releasing and dropping through your center. Feeling the expansion from the center part of your body outwards and upwards, downwards into the ground, and then contracting back in. And turning in the center to guide the direction of your arms. So, an increasing awareness of the significance of that central part of our body, pelvis, hips, waist, and its influence on our body in many different ways. It's that part of our body we want to drop towards the ground. It's often described as being like the hub of the movement, like the hub of a wheel in a bicycle. It guides the wheel around, and it's in that sense often seen as being the sort of location, the still point that we bring our attention to. All of these things build gradually for us through the practice. But it can be very useful to have a place in the body that we learn to bring our thoughts to. And we can do that with the center of the body and from there down into the ground. Something I feel is a takeaway, if you like, from the session, something we can bring into our daily lives. Those moments when we do feel a little bit pressured or a little bit stressed, we learn to just, again, release a little bit. Find that glimpse of quietness and stillness. And this time, letting your hands drop down and again focusing on one side. Push one arm out, draw your fingers back a little bit. Soften your elbow, let your arm just swing up a little bit above your head and then straight down the middle of your body, past your nose, your sternum, your navel. Again, expanding. Slight sense of pushing outwards here. Down. Take a moment to let your arm drop, feel the weight of your arm. One more time. this way. And then this time, as your hand reaches the top, once again focusing on that center part of your body, just turning and down. A moment to let your hips settle and repeat. Don't turn too far. And then changing sides. Remember that physically we're not just training muscle, tendon and ligament, fascia. We also have an effect on the nervous system, especially when we can bring that focused attention to the movements. So gradually, things like bringing our attention to the center part of our body and to the ground become smoother for us. So these are all some of the sort of ongoing benefits really of the practice. Once again, add in the turn. Now, just letting your arms rest for a moment and going back to this sinking down and pushing up. As we do this, as we do this, our pelvis will tend to adjust. Just don't do this deliberately, because these are very fine motor movements that we're practicing, very important movements for our stability, mobility. What we want to try and do is to allow the space in that center part of the body for our body to do this. So try not to pull your belly in, tightening your knees or your hips or your back. The next two exercises, we do change this a little bit. Please go very carefully with this. As you sink down, push your hips back so your pelvis tilts and your head will go forwards. Sinking down, and just let your hips drop back so your head comes up nice and easily, and push up. So again, remember that I'm doing this with quite big movements so you can see what's going on, but listen to your body. How far is it appropriate for you to do this? You could be doing it just quite small, because one of the main features of this movement is how we come to the upright position without straining in our back or our shoulders. Again, I'll show you with the pole, but this is happening. See how my hips are going back? I drop down, and then it's like somebody pushes on the end of the pole, and I come upwards and then push up. Gently lengthening through your back and spine, but nice and easy and gently. And we're going to use this for two exercises. The first of which, from this position, you push your arms out and up, a bit like the wild goose earlier, but then they get circled over as you sink down. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. On the side, don't overextend your arms. So an extension from the base of your spine to the tips of your fingers. A bit like, what it would be like when a cat stretches out. Easy and gently. We're not going to do too many of these ones because they are quite strong exercises and we need to build them up gently. And then letting your hands come to rest in front of your belly, palm down, turn horizontally, and then push your hips back So your hands are pushed forwards. Swing your hips across gently, let them drop down and come back. This is called polishing the table. Turn the other way. Push your hips back so your arms get drawn around in a nice smooth circle so you can see more what my hips are doing. Turn around, see how my hips go back. Again, remember I'm exaggerating the movements a little bit and then back. Try not to stiffen up in your shoulders or your arms or your fingers. Easy and gently. Taking a moment just here to settle in again. One more in each direction. Last time. Good, and then letting your hands drop. And take a moment just to, again, reflect on this posture. Weight a little bit forwards, hips dropping back, and now we can understand how when the hips drop back, that helps us to bring our heads and shoulders upright without straining. Again, feeling that support, that strength within your body, supporting you. So the soft tissue of your upper body in particular isn't having to strain to maintain an upright position. Maybe feeling again the effect on the breathing. A posture that allows space for movement of all types. Whether that's things like the muscles and joints moving, movements like circulation and breathing. Maybe aware of that more subtle sense of the energy beginning to flow through your body. And then just give your legs a little bit of a shake. So these are significant changes in our body. As a generalization, I think most of us stand like this, knees locked, shoulders back, chest out, and so on and so forth. This is exaggerated, but we kind of go from this to this in Tai Chi. And that takes the strain off the joints. It helps to spread the effort through the rest of the body, but it is requiring certain parts of your body to perhaps work a little bit harder than it's used to doing. And we do need to give ourselves time to condition for this. I think that's not always realised in Tai Chi. But we gradually start to get this sense of what is sometimes referred to as the three treasures of Tai Chi. There's the physical, mechanical side of what we're doing, the postures and structures. There's mind awareness and intention. We bring this conscious intention to the movements. And then there's the movement itself, the flow, the energy. And these three aspects really aren't separate. I think of them as being like three legs on a tripod. If you lose one leg, it's no longer a tripod. So sometimes we might focus on one more than the other, but we do want to try and build up all of these aspects. And we spend a lot of time looking at posture in Tai Chi because it's a good way of developing our well-being, of course, but also because it's one of the primary ways that we bring that conscious intention, that awareness into our body, and then we start to experience that sense of flow. Then we're going to change the posture. So in this parallel posture, we can imagine parallel lines going through our feet. We sometimes refer to them as tram lines. Turn one foot out, and this is an angle I would encourage you to play around with as you get more used to this. Step forwards with the other foot, toes pointing forwards, maintaining the width of your step. You can see the background through my legs, and stepping about the same in length or maybe a little bit longer. Let your hips drop and just begin to transfer your weight forwards and backwards once again. Take your time with this. This is a really important movement in Tai Chi. It's also, I think, one of the really important movements to practice. This is an exercise that can really help our mobility, our stability. Again, you could use the image of moving through water, and that may start to give you this sensation of what's happening within the upper body, which is very subtle. Think of this movement in 4 stages. Your weight is going into your back foot, and then into your front foot, and then back into your back foot. So it's driving the movement. But in between, it's just a moment of settling. Remember again that feeling of releasing in your hips. And what we can start to feel when that happens is that without necessarily the knee bending more, it may do, but doesn't necessarily have to, there's a greater sense of compression in the leg, which then expands. Pushing your foot down into the ground, the contact with the ground is really important. And what we want is that expansion, not to push us up at this point, but to push us forwards and backwards. So we generate an energy through that releasing process, through rooting down, that we then start to once again bring a sense of intentionality to. We start to guide that energy. So we could think of this as a movement, say, from the back foot, coming up through the back foot, through the centre of the body, down into the front. And then feeling the expansion once again upwards and downwards. Just letting your arms rest for the moment. We will bring the arms into the movement in a moment. Really good exercise for conditioning your legs. Now next time you go forwards, push your back knee in so the heel comes up, and you'll feel yourself shift just a little bit more into the front leg. Put the heel down, go into your back leg, raise the toes, feel yourself shift. Now once again, if I do this with the palm, not a perfect example, but it's good. From here, as I push my back knee in and my heel rises, notice how the pole shifts. And my upper body shifts, I come more into line with my supporting leg. And so gradually beginning to find those qualities of support, steadiness over one leg. You can have the front foot turned out slightly here if it helps. I normally do. And then go into your back foot, draw the front foot in. Push out, put the heel down, lower the ball of your foot, gently press in, plant the foot, go forwards, push your back knee in, settle down in the front foot, bring the back foot in, push back and out, ball of the foot, then the heel, then the planting. Just giving yourself a moment to reflect on this process of walking, leg contracting and expanding. Hips dropping back. Remember in previous exercises how significant that is. It's the hips dropping back that allow our centre of gravity to drop, to root down for the stability. And it's the hips dropping back that help our pelvis to level off and keep us in this upright stance without having to strain. Try not to stiffen up in your arms or your shoulders. Shake out. Don't be surprised if you do stiffen up in that way, by the way. These are old habits that we have, and they're not going to go away sort of in a few minutes. Turn your other foot out, step forwards, and then again beginning to transfer your weight forwards and backwards a little bit. Be careful not to overextend your knees. So don't go too far with this. Just feel this flowing movement, filling one leg, emptying the other, and then flowing forwards. Just easy and gently. Your upper body rest on your hips. Notice whether you've sort of stiffened up in your shoulders again. Try not to get frustrated about that. You're beginning to notice these things. You're beginning to find ways to neutralise them. Beginning to raise toes and heel. Remember that gentle pressure inwards. It's like you're pushing your foot into soft sand. Planting the foot, just feeling that contact with the ground beneath your feet. And then stepping in and push out. And then we can take this movement into a walking practice, and to go forwards or backwards depending on where you have room. Bring the foot in. I obviously have to go forwards. Settle in. And again, just give yourself a chance to reflect on this process of walking that for most of us is an everyday activity, but one that we rarely pay deliberate attention to. Change in direction if you haven't done so already. Again, this is a useful practice to remember. It's very simple, of course, although there's a great deal going on. It's an excellent way of just drawing your attention into your body. Okay. Now, go back to this stance. Have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements. But start with your weight in your back foot. Push forwards, and this time as you settle into the front foot, let your arms swing through. Going back, and as you settle into the back foot, feel your arms swing back. This is called fisherman casting. This lovely wave-like movement generated from the ground, coming up through your legs and back and into your arms. Soften your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists and your fingers. Feeling that sense again of your whole body moving from soles of your feet to the tips of your fingers. A fisherman casting. Another useful exercise to remember, very simple, very straightforward. And then the next time you come forwards and your arms start to swing through, simply turn. It becomes a little bit like the wild goose, but this is an exercise called Wind Blows the Willows. Coming back, letting your arms drop down, settling into your back foot, and turn. Your body contracting and expanding. Contracting, expanding. Willow tree is a common image. I think it's a rather lovely image if it works for you. It's deep roots and supple wood. even through water perhaps. One more time. Shake hand. Now, same thing on the other side. So your left foot forwards, starting with your weight back and going into the exercise, fisherman cast the net. Again, you may find that your body slips into a nice, easygoing, steady rhythm. And you may find that there's a sense of resonance, almost a vibration working through your body, which again points us at this very subtle aspect of the energy flow within the body. And one of the things that we're trying to do is to cultivate that flow, to harmonize it, to strengthen it. In Chinese medicine, that's one of the key factors in our well-being. Coming forwards, turning in the centre of your body, just letting that guide your arms around, for wind blows the willows. Contracting, expanding again, that steady rhythm. And then we combine this with the step-in that we did a few moments ago. So again, you can go forwards or backwards depending on where you have the space. I'm going to go forwards, bring the empty foot in, let the hips drop back, step through and plant, arms dropping down as you move the weight, turning, bringing the empty foot in. This is dragonfly skims the water. And if you feel comfortable with this, you bring the foot in and you can raise the leg. But if you find it sort of a strain to do that, or you're wobbling around, just leave the foot down for a moment. In time, we learn how to bring our body better in line, increasingly stable. Change direction if you haven't done so already. And then bring your feet back. Give your legs a shake. Don't get caught up on having to stand on one leg. It's not necessarily the key part of that exercise. Okay, so to round the session off, the last exercise brings us back to the basic principles. One of the images I really like that encompasses the qualities of this basic posture, the strength of it that comes from the rooting down and from within the body, the spacious quality, a dynamic quality, but also a sense of stillness. And the mountain is an image that I like to use for that. It would be lovely to think that we could maintain all of these qualities of mind and body the whole time, but in practice we know that it's not going to happen. We lose our root, we stiffen up, we have those times when we're feeling very stressed and we lose that calmness. One of the things that Tai Chi has really taught me is that yes, we can lose those things, but we can bring them back. And this last exercise sort of encapsulates that. It's called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. So In the parallel stance, just let your hips drop back and down again. Push up a little bit like the wild goose again. But at the top of the movement, bring your arms around as though you're holding the ball against your chest. Draw your hands in, turn them palm down, let your hips drop, and again pressing the ball down into water, coming back to the mountain. Your arms drop down and then push up again. And again, a useful sort of thing to remember is, what is it that brings you back to the mountain? Is it the image of the mountain itself? The pull of gravity on your hips? Some other sensation in your body? Some memory of movement? Just a recognition that it's possible to bring your attention into your body, into calm? It's a very personal thing. But perhaps trying to identify one or two key points that might be useful to you later in the day when, maybe you're stuck in traffic if you're driving, or maybe if you're waiting to be served in the shop and it's a long queue or something like that. What would be most likely to just bring you back to that sense of calmness and stillness and not get quite so stressed by the situation? I think it's one of the great gifts of the art. One more time. And then stand. Take a couple of slow, gentle breaths to finish. Lovely, thank you very much, as always. I hope you enjoyed that. And as always, please feel free to get in touch with me if you have any comments or questions.